Welcome everyone to Coin New Yen Review channel. Before we dive into today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so more people can discover us. Enjoy the show. I married a university professor in a whirlwind. Half a month into our marriage, I couldn't bear his cold indifference. I regretted my decision. Gritting my teeth, I brought up divorce with him. I told him we weren't suited for each other. His face darkened as he pinned me beneath him. In a hoarse voice, he said we hadn't even tried. How could I know we weren't compatible? I rushed into a marriage. My bargain wife was a university professor, a 29-year-old PhD, wealthy, beautiful, and prestigious. Best of all, she owned a car, a house, and had no parents to complicate things. My mother said marrying such a gem was a jackpot, but I didn't want to live like a widower anymore. I hesitated for a long time. I prepared to talk to Liuyan about divorce. I reached her office door. A young male student got there before me. He knocked and went inside. Why close the door? Open the door. Liuyan's voice carried a hint of irritation. The young student sheepishly opened the door. I stood at the doorway unsure what to do. She advised the student to come back another day unless it was urgent. The young student sighed. He kindly warned me. I stood there rooted. Curiosity stirred within me. Surprise caught me off guard. I asked Professor Liu if she had reviewed my paper. I needed her signature on the final section. Inside the office, Liuyan wore a white shirt. It outlined her graceful figure. Her sleeves were rolled up to her elbows, revealing a wrist with distinct veins. She flipped through a paper. Her frown deepened with each page. She said the work was so poor, even Li Hongzhang wouldn't dare sign it. She told him to submit a draft, not a rough sketch. The title was decent, all in proper Chinese, but together it made no sense to her. I stood there utterly dumbfounded. Half a month into our marriage, my conversations with Liuyan were few and far between. She was naturally reserved and quiet. Her demeanor seemed refined and elegant. I never expected her to be so sharp-tongued. Educated people sure know how to scold with flair. Her face grew darker with each page she turned. She asked what kind of format this was. Did he invent it himself? She told him to remove her name from the acknowledgments. She wouldn't be morally blackmailed. Did he even want to graduate? The young student stood there on the verge of tears. She coldly tossed the paper onto the desk. Her sharp gaze met mine hidden. She looked surprised. She asked Sang-yin, "Why are you here?" She softened her expression. She walked toward me. She took my hand. Why didn't I come inside? The young student looked at me like I was his savior. His eyes gleamed with gaussifinger curiosity. I awkwardly raised my hand in greeting. Liuyan glanced at him. She introduced me as Sang-yan. The young student turned into a gaussifinger melon seed. He exclaimed that Sang-yan was great. He asked, "Teacher, you're married." He said Sang-yan looked so young. When did we get married? Liuyan didn't want to entertain him. She said if he put his gossip energy into studying, his paper wouldn't read like a Jinjiang cereal. He apologized for interrupting teacher. He left saying head retreat. Only the two of us remained in the office. We stared at each other. An awkward silence settled in. She asked why I had time to visit today. She looked at me. Her voice softened slightly. I couldn't gauge her mood. I hesitated for a moment. I felt now wasn't the right time to talk about divorce. I lied, saying I was just passing by. She smiled faintly, her lips curving. She reached out and touched my head. She said it was time to leave, so we'd go home. She held my hand as we left the office. We passed a few colleagues on their way out. She nodded politely. She smiled and introduced me. She called me her husband. She said we just got married and would invite everyone to the wedding. My face flushed as I got into her car. The drive was quiet. As a talkative person, I couldn't stand the silence. I broke the awkwardness first. I asked why she was so harsh with her students. She sighed, saying they were too foolish. We drove home in silence. She went to the kitchen to cook as soon as we got home. A few dishes were soon on the table. All were my favorites. I dug into the meal. She kept serving me more food. I said I was full, feeling stuffed. She finally stopped. Another stretch of silence followed. I sighed inwardly to myself. She and I truly had nothing in common. This life was unsustainable. I took a deep breath. I tentatively said, Liuyan, maybe we should get a divorce. Her hand froze. Her gaze darkened. She asked Sang Yin, what did you say? I avoided her eyes. I repeated that I wanted a divorce. She stood up, her face cold. She cast a shadow over me. She closed her eyes briefly, but she couldn't hide the anger in her eyes. She asked Sang Yin, do you think marriage is a game? I twisted my fingers tightly. I felt a pang of guilt, but I insisted we weren't compatible. She asked where we weren't compatible. I said nowhere was compatible. We didn't even feel like a couple. She stayed silent, her face cold. She turned and left. I stood there dazed. Before I could react, she came back. She tossed a box onto the bed. I stammered, Liuyan, what are you doing? Her shirt was already gone. She glanced up at me. My face burned fiercely. Her voice was hoarse. She said we hadn't even tried. How could I know we weren't compatible? Her glasses brushed my nose. Her warm skin touched my cool glasses. She quickly removed her glasses. Her gaze met Liuyan's striking eyes. Without her glasses, she seemed gentler somehow. I thought a gem like her was no loss. But 3 minutes later, I lay on the bed questioning life itself. Her fierce moves were like a tiger's. Yet the score was a dismal 0-5. She covered her eyes. She seemed embarrassed. She said, Yanyan, it was my first time. I forced a weak smile to comfort her. I clung to the last shred of dignity. But inside I was screaming. I asked if we'd tried and if it felt right. Did she think it was right? I cursed and said we must divorce. Divorce was non-negotiable. I'd lived a good life full of virtue. This wasn't what I deserved. Her face flushed slightly. She asked if we could try again. I said fine, I'd endure it and it'd pass. But my phone buzzed at the worst moment. It vibrated like an earthquake. My mother was calling. She said, Yanyan, your father fainted. My mother's voice was frantic. We scrambled awkwardly. We searched for our clothes and dressed. We rushed downstairs to the car. The roads were empty at night. Liuyan drove like the wind. I was so worried I could barely sit still. It was my first time facing something like this. I didn't know what was wrong with father. Fear made me cry uncontrollably. Liuyan drove with one hand. Her other hand held mine tightly. She said, Yanyan, don't be scared. Father would be fine. She said his checkups were always clear. I shouldn't scare myself. We sped to the hospital. When I saw father, he was already awake. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. I said, Father, you scared me to death. I hugged him, still shaken. He said it was just high blood pressure. My mother always overreacted. She made a fuss and called us over so late. He patted my shoulder to comfort me. I asked why his blood pressure spiked suddenly. I sighed. My mother said father saw a news story about waste discharge. It angered him so much his pressure soared. My mother explained it was fine now, Yanyan. The doctor said he could stay for observation until tomorrow. But father refused to stay. They'd go home soon. She turned to Liuyan and said, Liuyan, you have classes tomorrow, right? Take Yanyan home. Don't let this delay your rest. Before Liuyan could respond, I spoke first, saying, Mom, I want to go back with you. She asked why I'd go with them in the middle of the night. I insisted on going with them. Truthfully, I was worried about father, and I didn't know how to face Liuyan. It still felt awkward. She called me a silly child. Liuyan stepped in to ease things for Mom. She said Yanyan was worried about father. I'd been terrified on the way. Let me stay with them. She'd pick me up after work tomorrow. My mother agreed, saying good. She told Yanyan to see Liuyan off. She'd stay and watch father. My mother nodded. She told me not to bother. Liuyan politely declined. She touched my head and said to call if anything happened. She said father would be fine. Had gone home to rest. The next day I slept in at home. I woke up late in the morning. My mother called out, saying, Yan, did I sleep until this hour every day at home? I yawned. I glanced at my phone. Mom, it was only 10 a.m. I usually slept until noon. She asked what I did all day. I explained I ate lunch at noon. I played games or watched dramas in the afternoon. At night I hung out with Qinming. Qinming was my childhood friend. After graduating, he opened a small bar. My friend was handsome and wild, so I spent most of my days with him. My mother said I was out gallivanting. She swatted me. What married man ran to bars every day? I said, Mom, I was just relaxing. It wasn't like I was cheating. I explained it was a wholesome, clean bar. She asked if my wife had no objections. I cautiously said it was fine. She got off work at 4 or 5. I went out at 4 or 5. We rarely crossed paths. She asked how our relationship was. I felt guilty. I said it was okay. She said saying in marriage needs effort. I couldn't take advantage of her good temper. Seeing her start a lecture, I quickly hugged her. I wriggled like a big caterpillar, saying, Mom, my beautiful mom, what's for lunch? She sighed and swatted me, asking father. She couldn't cook. My mother was a pampered princess, spoiled by father even in her 50s. She never touched chores. I reluctantly got out of bed. Father was already busy in the kitchen. I grabbed a boiled shrimp. Father frowned, calling me a greedy cat. He told me to wash my hands first. I asked why he was cooking so early, father. He said he'd finish soon, bustling about. I should take it to Liu Yin's school. I didn't understand. Her school had a cafeteria. He said cafeteria food couldn't compare to home cooking. She lost her parents young. She craved family the most. I should care for her more. I nodded, saying I understood. I asked why they both kept defending her. They seemed so pleased with this daughter-in-law. I said it while sneaking more food. Father nodded proudly. Had vetted her for years. Handing me to her was reassuring. She had looks, education, and a good temper. Best of all, no parents meant no in-law troubles. Every part of her was better than my past flings. I said, Father, if she's so perfect, why was she single all this time? I couldn't help asking him. He said she was poor during school, with little income. After graduating, she focused on research. She had no time for romance. I was speechless. I asked if maybe she had some flaw. What flaw could she have? She's your wife, don't you know? Father paused. He suddenly looked at me. Did Liu Yin have any flaws? I said no, I was just saying. Maybe 3 minutes was because of her age. I asked Father, don't you think she's too quiet? Father shook his head helplessly. He turned into a doting father. What use was a woman's sweet talk? It only fooled idiots like me. I said, fine, you're right. I'd been back in the country for so long. Hadn't I played enough? Now that I was married, I couldn't keep running around. I should find an easy job. It didn't need to pay much. Father could support me. I said, all right, Professor, saying I'd start studying tomorrow to pass the exams. What did he think? He said that was the best mindset. In the end, I took the food they packed. I reluctantly went to Liu Yin's school. She was still teaching a class. I got curious. I wondered what she was like at the podium, so I slipped into the classroom through the back door. A boy nearby whispered I wasn't from their college, was I? I nodded awkwardly. He asked if I came to hear the great professor's class. He said Professor Liu was famous. Many male students came to admire her charm. I frowned. Was Liu Yin really that popular? He said she was a legend at their school. The dream girl of countless guys. He secretly pointed. Did I see the guy up front? That was Fang Ting from their department. Rumor had it he knew Professor Liu before. He often pestered her for no reason. I looked where he pointed. There was indeed a fair-skinned guy. He was focused on Liu Yin at the podium. I hadn't expected her to be so alluring. He said they only saw Professor Liu as an idol, but that guy's intentions were clearly impure. Many people looked down on him. The boy kept gossiping to me. So many guys had shown interest in her. But Professor Liu never played ambiguous games. She was meticulous in her academics. That was why they admired her most. But he heard she recently got married. He wondered which lucky guy tamed their goddess. During the chatter, a cold voice rang out. The student talking in the back. Answer this question. Suddenly all eyes turned to us. I quickly ducked and lay on the desk. I kept pretending to be dead. The boy poked me, saying, classmate, she's calling you. The one lying down. I gritted my teeth. I stood up, my face red. I admitted I didn't know. And the room burst into laughter. I glared at Liuyan annoyed. Was she doing this on purpose? She saw me and froze slightly. Then a smile curved her lips. She told me to come to her office after class. The boy next to me sighed, saying classmate. He was mourning for me. What a mess this was. I pulled out my phone and texted Liuyan. I accused her of doing it on purpose. I told her to walk home alone after class. I was sneaking back. I didn't want her students to know. Her husband was such a spectacle. She glanced at her phone. She smiled faintly, her lips curving. I received a few angry emojis from her. 10 minutes later, the bell for the end of class rang out. I stealthily slipped into Liuyan's office. As soon as I stepped inside, she grabbed my hand. She explained with a hint of grievance that she didn't know it was me. She insisted it wasn't intentional. I huffed and placed the thermos on her desk. I accused her of repaying kindness with enmity. Angrily, I shook off her hand. I came to bring her food, yet she deliberately made me look foolish. I ignored her. She looked at me at a loss for what to do. She quietly tugged my hand again, asking me not to be mad. She really didn't know how to coax people. During our standoff, a knock sounded at the door. Her office had a screened-off resting area. I turned and went there. I heard the door open after the knock. Liuyan told them not to close the door. Through the gap in the screen, I saw the same Fang Ting from class today. The boy who my desk mate pointed out to me. He called her sister and said it was wild honey from home. His mother asked him to bring it for her. The boy carefully placed the honey on the desk. His voice was soft and gentle. She asked him to thank his mother for her. She said I'd probably like it. Liuyan's expression remained indifferent. She reminded him to call her teacher at school. The boy looked a bit embarrassed. He agreed, calling her teacher. He hesitated for a long time, then softly said teacher. A new restaurant opened near the school. The food is pretty good. Liuyan's eyes lifted slightly. She said she'd take me to try it sometime. Perhaps because I was nearby. Liuyan's attitude clearly drew a line. In the end, the boy left looking dejected. She said her mother and his were good friends before she passed. Now he's her student. Liuyan spoke first to explain. I glanced at her and said, oh, she was setting out the food father made. I remarked that their relationship must be pretty close. She served me food and explained. She said they weren't that close. I asked why she always made students keep the office door open. I pointed out that a female teacher with male students should always be cautious, especially since she was relatively young. She needed to be even more careful. I suddenly recalled what the male classmate said in class, that many guys showed interest in her, but Liuyan never played ambiguous games. I had to admit, though her words were clumsy, her character was truly upright, but her 3-minute flaw overshadowed her good looks. Damn it, I was wavering again. After eating, she tittied everything up. She said, Yanyan, I have another class this afternoon. Could I rest here and wait for her? I asked why I should wait. We'd been married so long. It was time we had a proper talk. I agreed. We married in haste. We barely communicated. Now was the time to discuss our issues. During her class break, I lay on the sofa in her resting area scrolling my phone. Not long after, a knock came at the office door. Thinking it was for her, I ignored it. No one answered. The person realized she wasn't there and quickly left. But to my surprise, the door actually opened. Curious, I stepped out of the resting area to investigate. It was none other than Fang Ting. He said he married a university professor in a rush. Half a month into the marriage, he couldn't stand her coldness. He regretted it. He gritted his teeth and brought up divorce. He felt they weren't suited, but she pinned him down with a dark face. She said in a hoarse voice they hadn't even tried. How could he know they weren't compatible? He held a cup of coffee. He looked startled to see me. I glared at him, not in a good mood. I declared I was Liuyan's husband. Did students now just barge into teachers' offices? My gut told me this boy had ulterior motives. He called her sister. He bit his lip, clearly unhappy. He said he brought his sister a coffee. He reminded her she seemed to forget. She just told him to call her teacher at school. I sneered coldly. He brought green tea vibes. Why bother with coffee? The boy looked up, his expression indignant. He said they'd known each other since childhood. His sister always took care of him. They got married. Wasn't it because my father was her teacher? When his mother was ill, my father lent her money. She married me out of gratitude. His face held a defiant look, mixed with some mockery. He said his sister liked someone as outstanding as her. Her ex-boyfriend was a Yale PhD, now a renowned scientist in the country. He heard I was just a graduate of a non university. How could Liu Yin like someone with an empty head like me? Our marriage wouldn't last. He snorted. I couldn't believe the audacity of this little green tea, daring to say this to me. Liu Yin clearly said they weren't close. I was instantly ignited, filled with the urge to tear into him. I admitted I was from a non university. I lacked experience. I really didn't know that a top university student like him had a head full of low-life schemes. As Liu Yin's legal husband, he wasn't even a third party. Yet he dared to stir trouble in front of me. Who gave him the nerve? He clenched his fists tightly, trembling with anger. He stammered that she didn't even like me. I laughed dismissively. If she didn't like me, did she like him, a walking GPS? Did he know his place? If he didn't have a mirror he could use his own urine, he should take a good look at what he was. If Liu Yin liked a green tea like him, then I'd be blind. I unleashed my anger in a tirade. I admitted I wasn't cultured, nor did I have manners. When mad, I wanted to throw punches. As Liu Yin's wife, if I beat him up today, what would people think? The little green tea had no fight in him. A few words scared him senseless. He stammered, unsure what to say, and slunk away in defeat. I sat there growing angrier by the minute, feeling suffocated. I needed someone to vent to. I took a cab straight to my friend's place. I hadn't seen him in 2 days. And this guy was secretly dating a young dancer, a fresh, wild little thing. I slammed the table saying I'd find a young thing too. My friend agreed. He said his darling came with classmates today, had called them over to hang out. I urged him to hurry so I could feast my eyes. Sisters were the best. Calling me brother made my heart bloom. A few drinks later, my mood lifted even more. But not long after, a tall figure loomed before me, her eyes dark and stormy. She asked Sang Yan why didn't I answer her calls. I said I didn't see them and didn't want to wait. Her expression shifted as she politely greeted my friend, apologizing. She said she'd take me home. Maybe her aura was too cold, or perhaps they recalled the fear of being disciplined by a teacher. The group acted like timid quails, nodding obediently, saying goodbye, Teacher Liu. Liu Yin bent down and scooped me up in her arms. She stuffed me into the car. She drove home at breakneck speed. Once inside, she helped me change my shoes. The shoes were somehow a size too small. I wasn't drunk, at most a little tipsy. She helped me to the sofa. She seemed to be holding back anger. She said Sang Yan were married. If something's wrong, I should talk to her. I was a bit annoyed. I pushed her away, saying divorce. I said I now like young fresh guys and sweet sisters. Her gaze grew colder. She asked what I said. I said sisters were obedient and caring. Their stamina was enviable. Age was catching up with her. Her gaze darkened further. Sisters were young and energetic, unlike old women with weak kidneys and hearts. Liu Yin grabbed my shoulders. Her eyes locked onto mine. She asked if I was trying to infuriate her. I refused to back down. I stood on the sofa, hands on hips. I asked who was infuriating whom. I called her out, Liu Yin. She said she wasn't close to that boy. Not close yet. He walked right into her office. Not close yet. He brought her coffee and warm. She looked surprised. She said I misunderstood. I said her student told me first meeting that they were childhood sweethearts with such a great bond. He mocked me, saying my head was empty, unfit for her. Our marriage was only because my father helped her. Father worked hard to make that meal. I kindly brought it to her, only to meet a toad clinging to my foot. It didn't bite but disgusted me. Did she think I'd be in a good mood? I grew angrier with each word, giving her no chance to interrupt. She looked anxious, unsure what to do. She ended up hugging me tightly. She pulled me into her arms, holding me closer and closer. I said, Liu Yin, you let me go. Her strength was overwhelming. I could barely breathe in her embrace. She said, "Sang Yan, it's not what you think." She looked down at me with a hint of grievance. She said she wasn't close to that boy. She was much older than him. She left home early for school. When her mother was ill, his mother helped them out. Later, he enrolled at her school. His mother asked her to look after him. She didn't know when he got those ideas. He never told her. And he's a boy. She couldn't be blunt about it. So she kept her distance deliberately. She said, "Sang Yan, I never had any thoughts about him. He was her student. She wouldn't breach professional ethics, nor would she be unfaithful in marriage. I could trust her on that. She trusted I'd go out to have fun, but wouldn't cross any lines." She spoke word by word, leaving me stunned. She said there was only one reason she married me. She liked me. She looked straight at me, her tone firm yet gentle. Her words hit my heart. I was surprised and felt something indescribable. My fiery arrogance dimmed a bit. I asked if she liked me. Why didn't she pursue me earlier? She looked at me. She sighed helplessly. She said she was much older than me, and besides, I probably wouldn't like someone as dull as her. She didn't know how to date. Wasn't being with her boring? I cleared my throat. I admitted it wasn't that boring, just that she was so quiet. She rubbed my head. She said, "Yanyan, I'm not good at comforting. Would I teach her?" My heart softened. I said boys were easy to soothe. Just kiss and hug them when they're mad. As soon as I said it, she suddenly took off her glasses. She hugged me and kissed me. I was caught off guard. My face flushed when I realized her lips were soft, light at times, heavy at others, like a gentle tie. It was hard to resist. She asked, "Yanyan, are you still mad?" I steadied my breath. I grabbed her collar and glared. I said she seemed to know how after all. She smiled, her lips curving. She said it was all thanks to her teacher. I inwardly grumbled. This old woman learned fast. While we talked, Liu Yin's phone rang. The screen showed Fang Ting's call. I rolled my eyes at her. Her expression was calm. I urged her to answer, curious what this green tea was up to now. Liu Yin picked up. A pitiful sob came from the other end. He said, "Sister, I'm sick." Liu Yin frowned and cut in. "If you're sick, go to the hospital. I'm not a doctor." Then she hung up. I teased, calling her sister. "He's sick. Why not show some concern?" She tossed the phone onto the sofa. She said she had more important things to do. Her voice carried a hint of affection. Looking at her breathtaking face, I couldn't bring myself to refuse. The bedroom's wall lamp glowed dimly, reflecting moonlight through the window. I don't know how much time passed. I couldn't hold back anymore. I asked Liu Yin, "What did you eat?" Her eyes glinted with a dark light. Gone was her usual cool demeanor. She asked, "Sang Yan, you like sisters, huh?" Oh no, this old woman was holding a grudge. I said I didn't. It was just a spur-of-the-moment quip. I said, "Liu Yin, you're not old at all." One night, sleepless, I had one thought: what coldflower? Theft. She was sultry and wild. The next day, she tittied the bed and carried me onto it. She picked up our clothes from the floor and went to the bathroom. I quietly marveled at this old woman's stamina. After I dressed and got out of bed, she had already washed the clothes. She was busy in the kitchen. On the balcony hung the freshly washed clothes and intimates, still dripping with water. An indescribable intimacy. I felt a bit dazed. Overnight, how did we get so close? Soup simmered in the kitchen. She focused on chopping vegetables. Her phone rang. Her angry voice came from the kitchen. She asked if being a top student gave him the right to look down on others, gossiping behind people's backs. Where was his sense of decency? She declared I was her husband. He should call me. I married a university professor in a rush, half a month into the marriage. I couldn't stand her coldness. I regretted it. I gritted my teeth and brought up divorce. I felt we weren't suited, but she pinned me down with a dark face. She said in a hoarse voice we hadn't even tried. How could I know we weren't compatible? She said I was her husband. He should call me Sang Yan or brother-in-law. Where was the manners he learned here? She said she married me because she liked me. My father was a renowned professor, and I was younger than her. She was just an orphan, from a humble background. If anything, she was the one reaching up. For a married female teacher to sow discord and meddle in others' relationships, didn't he feel ashamed? He didn't need to apologize to her. He owed an apology to his parents' expectations, to the country's investment in him, and to all the education he had received. I stood there, listening to Liu Yin's every word. Each sentence surprised and touched me. Father once said her character was gentle, and her conduct most upright. She was someone worth entrusting my life to. Until this moment, I truly felt it then. This woman was someone with an incredibly upright worldview. Thinking back on my actions yesterday, I suddenly felt so immature. I quietly walked behind her. I wrapped my arms around her waist. I rubbed my head against her back, saying, Liu Yin, was I being a bit unreasonable yesterday? I should have cleared up the misunderstanding. I left her behind and deliberately tried to anger her. She turned and held my waist. She smiled down at me, saying it was nothing. She admitted she hadn't given me a sense of security. I asked Liu Yin, what do you like about me? Her gaze lowered slightly. Her expression softened. Back in school, my professor always said his son was a little angel, cute and kind. When classmates stayed late to ask him questions, he'd anxiously check his watch, saying he had to get home to cook for his wife and son. When I was young, because my father cheated, my mother divorced him. I didn't know what a normal, happy family looked like. So I was always envious and curious. Not long after starting graduate school, my mother was diagnosed with kidney failure. Under that pressure, I considered dropping out. It was my professor who put money in my hands, telling me to focus on my studies. Sadly, my mother didn't make it in the end. She asked if I remembered the first time she came to our house. I recalled a New Year's when Father invited one of his students to dinner. He specifically told me not to cling to my mother or pester her with mom. He said that sister had just lost her mother and was grieving. She was so thin and delicate back then, polite but reserved. She barely spoke. I was only 16 or 17 then. I didn't know how to comfort someone, so I shyly offered her my favorite candy. I said eating candy might lift her mood. When she took it, she only politely said thank you. Every New Year after that, Father would invite her for dinner and give us red envelopes. She and I barely spoke. Most of the time, she discussed academic matters with Father. The last time I saw her was when she helped Father guide me on my thesis. I'd just gotten a girlfriend then. All I thought about was love. I wasn't focused on studying. I teased Liu Yin, you didn't fall for me at first sight, did you? I was so young back then. That's kind of perverse. I couldn't help but poke her waist. She smiled helplessly. She said she didn't know. She just thought our family was so warm. She envied that kind of family. She pinched the flesh on my cheek. She called me a little angel and thanked me for the candy. She said seeing me made her happy. But someone as dull as her probably wasn't my type. I hugged her waist, grinning with crescent eyes. I admitted she wasn't my type before, but now she felt pretty great. I hooked my arms around her neck. I said, Liu Yin, why didn't we get together years ago? We could have dated for years before getting married. She steadied me, smiling gently down. She said we'd just have to fall in love after marriage. She looked at me, took off her glasses, and leaned in. I yelped that the pot was about to burn. Wet kiss later. The room was filled with the sour-sweet scent of love. This love of termarriage thing was too intoxicating. On a rare day off, Liu Yin took me to an amusement park, but I didn't expect. She was actually afraid of heights. Even a simple swing ride left her pale-faced, with a sheen of cold sweat. I teased that she was scared of a mere swing. I called her Professor Liu such a weakling. I deliberately mocked her, then pulled out a tissue to wipe her sweat. She said Father used to take me to amusement parks. Back then they were every kid's dream, fairy tale land. Since she was afraid of heights as a kid, did she only ride the carousel at parks? She smiled faintly, saying she never went as a child. Her mother raised the family alone, working every day. Their conditions weren't great. I was taken aback. I grew up carefree, but her life was different. Why did I mock her like that? I felt like such a jerk. I asked what she did as a kid. She said she studied. She really enjoyed studying, especially solving math problems. I called her a freak for liking math. She smiled. Her home was filled with trophies back then. Her mother's happiest moments were polishing them. Mentioning her mother, her eyes dimmed slightly. She said it was a pity her mother never met me. A sudden wave of sadness hit me. I had lived her life. I couldn't fully empathize. With just a few words, I realized I'd been far luckier than her. Her achievements today came from far greater effort than most. I looked at her face, my heart aching. I asked Li Yuyan, all these years, have you been lonely on your own? She smiled. She rubbed my head. She said she was used to it was fine. I suddenly didn't know how to comfort her. I slowly wrapped my arms around her waist. My eyes met her gaze full of affection. I reached up and deftly removed her glasses. I leaned in for a gentle kiss. I said I'd give her a loving hug and kiss. I meant it as a light gesture, but she held my neck and deepened the kiss. At the amusement park, fireworks bloomed above the castle. As the world spun, it felt like fireworks were bursting in my mind. She whispered in my ear, thanking me, saying Yan. I quietly took off the Kadir headband I was wearing. I said, Li Yuyan, if you want to thank me, would you wear this? I was curious how it'd look on her. The shiny cat ears, paired with the cool Professor Liu. The contrast was too cute to imagine. She frowned and refused. She said it was for young guys. I pointed out a nearby couple, saying a girl was wearing a sparkly one. She still refused, unimpressed. I begged her to wear it just once. I'd look and take it off. I acted coy and stubborn, but she wouldn't budge. She had quite the idol image to maintain. I ignored her protests. I bent down to put it on her, but she quickly ran off. I called out, Professor Liu, don't be shy. I chased after her. The park was crowded. I accidentally bumped into someone. I hurriedly apologized, saying sorry. Li Yuyan turned back, calling out Li Yuyan. The other person was a refined-looking guy. He saw Li Yuyan and looked surprised. He softened his expression. His gaze flicked over me. Then he smiled faintly, asking if I was her boyfriend. Li Yuyan walked over and took my hand. She smiled, saying I was her spouse. He was stunned for a moment, then congratulated us. He smiled at her. He asked how she was considering his earlier proposal. Li Yuyan remained composed. She politely but faintly said thanks. But she wasn't considering it. Though it was just a brief exchange before parting, my gut told me they had a deep connection. I couldn't help but demand who he was. Li Yuyan calmly said he was her ex-boyfriend. I instantly got upset. I said, Li Yuyan, first a childhood friend, now an ex. You're quite the charmer. She pleaded, Yanyan, don't misunderstand. That was years ago. She held my hand, explaining nervously. I huffed and shook her off. I told her not to be mad. She offered to show me something to calm me. I refused. When I got mad, I was harder to catch than a New Year's pig. After so many years, they still kept in touch. What was this secretive considered talk? She was married. He had a wife and a 3-year-old kid. She explained cautiously. Had recently returned to the country and contacted her. It wasn't what I thought. He wanted to recruit her to his research institute. I asked if she was going. I'd heard foreign institutes paid much more than domestic ones. Father was once offered a high-paying job abroad. He turned it down outright. Li Yuyan shook her head. Her gaze was resolute as she said the country raised her. She had to give back to it. Besides, she had me now, and my parents so she'd stay with me. Her words stirred a bittersweet feeling in me. I asked if he was the legendary Yale PhD guy. My curiosity got the better of me. Wasn't a first love hard to forget? She pinched my hand and They were together for a short time. He broke up with her before graduating, then went abroad for grad school, and stayed there. I realized she was the one dumped. Didn't she feel any regret? She held my hand and answered earnestly. We were young then. She was just a poor girl. He made a rational choice. There was no regret. I pressed on, asking what they did on dates. She admitted they read and discussed knowledge. I asked if there was more. Before I finished, she pulled me tightly into her arms. She said it was different with us. I asked how. With him it was like mutual admiration as comrades. With me it was as lovers. espouses her voice low. With a husky whisper, she said it was hard to resist. What a way to say she couldn't resist. I teased Liuyin, you're getting good at talking. Did you secretly study up? I tugged at her collar, questioning her. This old woman was getting too smooth. She smiled shyly, admitting she looked online. I smirked mischievously. I asked if she'd been sneaking onto shady sites. How else did she improve so fast? A flicker of unease crossed her face, but she stubbornly denied it. I teased, oh Professor Liu, I didn't know you were so secretly wild. I seized the chance to mock her. Wasn't she always so composed? Yet she visited those sites. I kept teasing, asking what Professor Liu thought about. She couldn't out me, so she resorted to shutting me up another way. She said hoarsely, I thought of you. I was breathless. I glared at her, face red. I let her off for now. She said, Yanyan, she might not give me a lavish life or a dramatic romance. She pulled me into her arms, looking at me earnestly. She said she could offer a lifetime of loyalty to our marriage. Loyalty to me. A steady, worry-free life. She'd tried to be good to me. Tried to be a good wife, so I wouldn't regret marrying her. Her words churned my emotions. I couldn't help but hug her tightly. I said, Liuyin, when I was a kid, father always told me to marry someone like my mother. Now if found her. That evening at home, she busied herself in the kitchen. I changed into comfy clothes. I curled up on the sofa playing on my phone. The lights were warm, the windows quiet, the house filled with coziness. In that moment, I felt love didn't need to be grand or full of vows, just a steady flow, no betrayal, no suspicion, simple and pure. A mundane life glowing with gentle warmth. After dinner, she watched a drama with me. I nestled in her arms, teasing her. I asked Professor Liu, do you get The Legend of Xinhuan? She thought for a few seconds. She said it was easier than partial differential equations. I asked which prince she liked. She said none of them. Her survival instinct was strong. I pressed her to pick one. She hesitated, then chose the 13th prince. I was surprised. I said he was a bad guy. Didn't she think he was a bit silly and kind of cute? I teased Liuyin. So you like goofy, handsome guys? She held back a laugh, looking at me. I nodded, then realized I bit her chin in mock anger, calling her a jerk. Was she calling me dumb? She denied it. She said I was cute. A few minutes later, I smoothed my ruffled hair. I solemnly declared that from today, I'd study hard to secure a stable job. I'd strive to prove my worth. She kept laughing at me. She lifted me onto her lap. She asked, Yanyan, would you like a job at my school? The school could arrange positions for PhD spouses, mostly administrative work. If I liked, I could consider it. We'd be colleagues, spending all day together. She worried I might get tired of her. She explained seriously, then added, I could do any job I liked. She'd support me. My mind flashed with big words. I'd have a stable job. My eyes lit up. I said to assign me to the girls' dance department dorm as a dorm manager. Her face darkened. Her hand on my waist tightened. Her voice carried a hint of danger. Still into sisters, huh? Think I'm old. My heart raced. I grinned cheekily. I hooked my arms around her neck and kissed her. I said sisters couldn't compare to Professor Liu. She looked at me, her eyes glinting through her glasses. She curved her lips. One hand steadied me. The other removed her glasses. With experience, taking off her glasses was like a countdown. Without them, her eyes narrowed slightly, adding a touch of allure. Her gaze was like a beast eyeing its prey. The moment our eyes met, my legs went weak. Her kiss was commanding, urgent, with a hint of dissatisfaction. She told me not to think of others. I pinched her waist. I said I wouldn't. I just wanted to nap on Professor Lia's ABS, or slide down her nose. The mood was too perfect. We stayed up late. With my last bit of strength, I grabbed my phone and texted my friend. What's so great about sisters? Can they get you a stable job? My wife can. I laughed, Yanyan. If got a stable job,